Shalom, 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 Brother Randy here. Out taking care of some business, but a couple of things was on my mind, and I was thinking, when I look out and I see what we see, what's happening in society today with this whole, quote unquote economic collapse or societal collapse or whatever it is that you want to call it or refer to it, we see, especially during the past 5-6 years since the 2008 crash, we see things happening a whole lot differently than what we expect. You had all of these people out here, screaming, collapse, collapse, collapse. And yet, the banks have gotten bigger. The politicians' pockets have gotten fatter. The religious establishment has gotten more fatter and more richer than you could ever imagine. I mean, look at how many $500 million, $1 billion religious preachers and stuff that there are today. Look at the wealth of the politicians. Look at the wealth of the corporations and the big banks. But what we see as well during the past 5 or 10 years is that the average person on the street is getting poorer and broker and broker and broker. And this is why I like to look at Facebook, because you can see not only the moral decline, but the economic decline of the average family. Just look at, all I have to do is look at my family. I look at people out there in other families. It is no secret that we are in an economic decline, and you can see it through the actual people. It's not uncommon today that you see people that are 25, 30 years old still living in their mother's basement apartments, or still living with their parents, or starting families in generational homes. It's very common today to see people stacked up, multi-generational families, cousins. I see it all the time. 12, 15 deep in a house that's paid for, or a house that's mortgaged, and everybody's chipping in to pay the bills. I see it in my family. I just see it across the board. And being in the city and living a good life, I saw this thing coming when I was first became aware of the economic situation in this country. I used to work with a woman by the name of Miriam, and she used to be a project manager in the same field that I was working in, and she lost her job. We all got laid off at this company that we were working at, and we all got laid off. But this was at least 7-8 years ago I was working there. But we all got laid off, and eventually I took a year off, and then I found another job. A lot of people, sometimes they found a lot of job quicker. Others, it took them a little longer to find a job. But this particular sister, she wasn't able to find a job years later. Years later, she wasn't able to find a job. She lost her house. She lost her rental property. She lost pretty much everything. And, I look on her LinkedIn profile, and she never updated it, and I followed up with her, and, she was never able to recover from that situation. Just one job loss, and she was very, very highly qualified, but she was not able to, get another job at the same pay, or even anywhere near the pay that she was making before. You know how devastating that can be to the psyche and to the mind? And so, that's just one of many situations that I know. And so I just felt that, once I saw this situation, just because you're riding high now, doesn't mean that you're going to be riding high in the next year, or the next 3 or next 5 years. The scriptures say that a wise man foreseeth the danger, and he prepares his house. And it's so important, and there's so many people out there that are screaming at the top of their lungs. A good example is Pastor Joe Fox. He does videos after videos, talking about the importance of preparedness, the importance of getting ahead, of the situation, and I just didn't want to be in a situation as to where, I lost my job and I couldn't get another job, and I'm sitting in and I have a mortgage and I have all of this debt. Well, I didn't have any credit card debt. I always like to stay away from it, be as little debt as possible, because I wanted to, to use all of my money to do what I wanted to do with that money out in the world. But I didn't want to be in a situation as to where, I couldn't provide for my family, and I needed to rely on others to provide food, shelter, and clothing for my family, whether it's someone else or the government. And the sad thing about it is that a lot of people have it good, but then a lot of people, they've slipped away, and now they're impoverished. Could you imagine how it must feel where, you can't, as a man, provide for your wife and your child, or you have a child on the way, or you have children and you're not even man enough to provide food, shelter, and clothing? That's an infidel. I mean, that's grounds for termination right there. And you can't provide for your own family, and you need to ask, or you need to look for government handouts, Section 8 and stuff, to provide housing for your family. That's a sad situation to be in. But, a lot of people are in this situation because of poor choices and decisions that they made. And they're going to suffer, and they're suffering greatly now. A lot of people are months away from poverty. A lot of people are already there. And, you just don't want to be in that kind of situation. What would you rather be a Hebrew slave or a slave to the Gentiles? Well, I tell you, I'd rather neither. But, the commandment clearly says, thou not covet thy neighbor's house, their neighbor's wife, or their male slave, or their female slave, or anything that belongeth to thy neighbor. And that clearly is telling you that slavery is pretty much legal in the faith, as well as you see it inside of America today. And a lot of people are just, because of the choices and decisions that they've made, you're going to see a whole lot of people going into slavery. And a lot of people are already there. And it's a sad situation because you haven't made the choices and decisions, and you haven't heeded the warning of wise people that have been on this YouTube and that's been crying out loud and sparing not. And so therefore, you, your children, your wife is going into captivity. Sad thing. But, it has to be so. Because a lot of people are just not going to take heed to the warning when we're in the green and when we're in the red. And a lot of people, they're in the red now. As far as I'm concerned, that the economic collapse has already happened for you. If you can't provide for your own wife and your children, you're finished, you're done for. Now, you have to acquiesce, and now you have to submit yourselves to this world. And they're going to tell you what to do. They're going to tell you where to live. They're going to tell you where to work. And if you don't, you're going to be homeless again. It's a sad thing. And so, you out there that do have means, prepare now. Make the moves now. Make the tough choices and decisions now. Because, it is a painful thing to be in a situation where you're in a forced decision. You don't want to be in a forced decision. I don't want to be in a forced decision. But unfortunately, many people are going into forced decisions where you have no choice. You have to acquiesce. You have to succumb and submit because you have no choice. It's either that or a homeless soup kitchen line or a homeless shelter somewhere in the nearest city near you. And you don't want to be in that situation as well. So, it is important to get ahead of the situation. Do the planning that you have to do. Make the tough choices, decisions, and the sacrifices that you need to make right now. Because if you don't, there are people out there that's more than willing and happy to make the decision for you. Take heed. A wise man foresees the danger and prepares his house. Everyone else are the straight fools. Shalom.